All right. Welcome to episode 3 of the Prowl podcast. Trevor Grice here with my podcast partner.
Podcast partner, Chris Wilcox. How's it going, Trevor?
Isn't that a good alliteration, right?
I love it.
Partner.
I love it.
Now, thanks for staying tuned. Hopefully you really enjoyed episode 2, that interview that Chris did with Coach Rob McDaniel, that as we sit here right now, hasn't happened yet.
Not yet, but it will.
But it will. So, I mean, just a little pull the veil back a tiny bit on how this is going. But we are recording episode 3 as we sit here after recording episode 1 about the value of time to a community. And we alluded to in episode 1 how Chris and I, we coached a variety of sports. We volunteer a lot in a variety of different things. One thing we didn't talk about was your new role as president of Caro Athletic Boosters.
Yeah, a president of the Athletic Boosters. Now, that sounds funny, just me saying it, probably because I never would have envisioned it. But here I am, and, I hope to hold up what all the past members have done. They did a fantastic job, and we only hope to keep it rolling in the straight and narrow, and hope to build upon success that they've already had.
And I have signed on to be your tag team partner with that, so that in specific at the football games, so you can go announce football games, I will be standing Chris Wilcox at the concession stand or where I'm needed.
Yes, so it's not really Trevor Grice, it will be Chris Wilcox. So you can call him Chris, or, well, you can just call him Trevor, either way.
So moving on to the topic that we have here, it's one that's important to us because if you do know us, it's something that we do quite a bit, and that's the value of time. It's giving time to a community. And I think where we really want to start is, what are the habits, what are the things you see in a community that you would say is successful, right? And one of those things that I see is a lot of people, sometimes alumni, sometimes early parents of kids that aren't at that sports level yet, giving a lot of time to what we would call the culture, almost the cultural buildup, this idea of, concession stands or spirit weeks, or, just overall helping create and maintain that community focus. So, thoughts that you have when you think of a successful community?
Culture starts at the top and works its way down. Simple enough. And, when you start talking about, the time in the community, so on and so forth, like, it's those that make successful programs, are the alum, are the individuals without kids in programs yet. Maybe it's the parents that already have kids in programs that are able to volunteer in different sports, able to volunteer time. And that's a big thing. It's volunteering time. Giving your time to someone.
We'll oftentimes use sports as our example, but I can even think of a lawyer coming when I was doing youth and government in school and helping us learn some of the ins and outs about managing a courtroom and what we would want to do for a skill-based thing we were doing for that, or someone with construction experience helping build a set in a drama. Do you know what I mean? Like, It's more than just the sports aspect.
It is.
It doesn't take any special skills, honestly, to go hand out popcorn other than a smile and the willingness to be there. You know, and yet it's valuable.
And it's funny. It's not funny, but it is funny that you mentioned, the building on maybe of a drama set or whatever it may be. So, I'm a Kingston alum, and we always had these, we went out and we did floats back then, right? You had float parades. All of our floats had movement to them. What type of movement? Unknown, but it always had movement. But we were thankful for those adults that gave us guidance in, well, for one, electrical wiring, because having teenagers trying to wire something up I still don't know how they did it. Really, I don't. The two wrong wires go together, man, it's going to be a pain in the butt. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, exactly.
We've got these like buttons that we want. That was a perfect time to finally use one of those buttons. So,
but it truly is like, it's giving back in the smallest ways that you see possible. And when you give back, for me, I'm helping the youth. Like, I was given time from a bunch of adults to help coach me, to help push me through school. And now I feel that it's my time to help do that same thing for those youth as they're going through. Whether it's a ear for listening, a voice for talking, maybe it's just a simple handshake, a hello. I've recently taken some phone calls late at night from some youth, just because they needed somebody to talk to. Like, but that's what it's about, right? Because I'm now volunteering. That's my, like, it's my time, but I'm volunteering my time to help them as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And that's not always on the field.
Correct.
Right? Even in practice, it's off. And because I've had those same conversations, and that I can remember the names of those people that were either Little League coaches or Bob Miner and Mr. Cordes and Kenny Wald and Rod Baranski, that from my youth, of people that gave their time and.
Yep.
And I remember it being valuable, right? And some of those people are still around, some of them aren't. But when it really comes down to it, is they helped form my father too, right? Obviously our parents are key in that, but they helped form and fashion a belief, but I guess also a way to act, right? I don't think it was ever a question that I was ever going to coach, because I saw that's what my dad did,
Right.
And that's what others did. And it didn't mean it came natural. I had to learn it. But I also think it's weird to get paid for it at this point, because all the people I know never got paid for it.
You never got paid, right?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Like I even look at it and it's like, what do you mean you want to give me money? Like, I don't need any money. Like, even a gift card. Like, I don't want your gift card. Like, this is just what I do, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that you're the same way. Like, it's just like, thanks, but I don't need this.
But I've also been a parent on the other side, and you're like, how do you
show the appreciation?
Yeah. So, we're kind of just spitballing on this topic. We don't have a real clear outline, but it's one that's important to us, because what we see in successful communities is a lot of giving of time, and it's a resource that many of us feel that we don't have. I don't know how many times we have heard the statement, I would, but I don't have time. And we know, and I think this is probably the most pointed I'll get today, is we know that that's just not the truth.
Correct.
It's just not the truth, and it might, you just have to ask questions like how much TV you watch and how much time you spend on your phone. And yet there are times where people will be like, I have a sick parent, I have this. There are times in our life where it is true.
Yeah. Right. Oh, absolutely. I'll be the first to admit, there was times where I literally said, hey, listen, I don't have time. One of those was CBSF. I was the president out there for a while. Then I took a step back, I believe, into the vice president role. Then I dropped back into a director at large position, and I was going through a lot at the time. My father had dementia. He was in a rough spot just in life, and it's just one of those things that you look back on. It's like, wow, I really didn't have time. I mean, I did, but that time was dedicated to taking care of my father, because my father had taken care of me for so long, along with my mother. But my father ended up succumbing to the I guess I'll say the disease earlier this year in January, and I lost my mom back in 2011. Yeah, 2011. Sorry, I had to reflect on that one. So am I saying that, hey, my time's opened up? Absolutely not. Like, I still feel busy. Everybody's like, well, Chris, you just took on what? You're doing what? Like, there's no way you're doing that. And listen, I'm involved. Those that may not know, I sit on our township board as a trustee. Yes, I am the president of the Athletic Boosters here for Cairo. Oh yeah, by the way, I also work a full-time job like everybody else does. Oh yeah, and I'm also coaching for sure one sport usually, if not multiple sports. And then I have 2 kids, and oh yeah, guess what? I have to be a husband while I'm at it. Oh yeah, the yard work's got to get done too. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, as Trevor said, we're not saying that, hey, there's never a question of, hey, maybe you just don't have the time. But sometimes the time excuse is just an excuse. You find a way to make time. You truly do, and it's just a matter of whether or not you want to make time at that particular point in time. I think I got all those times right there.
And I think this is the point where I like to, when we kind of go in this direction, that I like to call it, it's like, what we're saying right now might be, I want to say irritating, but it might be rubbing some of you the wrong way. But I really want to say, we haven't mentioned a name.
No, there's no names.
There's no names here. This isn't about any one person. If what you're hearing is bothering you, then I would encourage you to do a little bit of reflection and to see if maybe your stuff's a little bit out of balance. Chris and I both will tell you that our stuff's out of balance sometimes because we do too much. And he's alluding to one of our friends who is like, "What the heck are you doing on Boosters?" And then we said, "Well, that's not all we're doing." And we told him about this podcast, and he just doesn't get it, right?
Right.
But he wants to be on in here as an interview.
He does, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And it's if we are rubbing one of you the wrong way, I I would love to have a talk with somebody just in a matter of time. Listen, by no means am I the perfect person to tell you how to balance your time and time management. I am far from that. I just get things done. I know that we were up at the concession stands with the Athletic Boosters a little while ago, and you and Diana ended up giving me a ride home because Stacy had to go pick up the oldest, and there was a question, or there was something that was alluded to just as we were pulling in my driveway, and I said, yeah, I'm finding it a little bit easier now to use my calendar. And Diana said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I always used to just remember everything. And well, the ripe old age of now 40 is one of those where it's like, okay, well, maybe I should use a calendar, and Diana just kind of was like maybe in awe, or like, what the heck are you talking? You don't use a calendar. I never have till now, which is, it's interesting, but it does help me with my time now, which is great. I'm not saying I have any more of it because, there's 24 hours to a day, but hey, still there's time.
And there's now you just see that some of that stuff's double booked, right?
A lot, yes, yeah, a lot.
So you were talking a little bit about something that you heard in like a recent devotion.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at church today, and just before devotion, and it really kind of struck me to the fact of how it was worded. It was really worded in a sense of, let's just use for an example, Trevor. You got to make a call to your phone carrier, and we're going to say it's AT&T. And I'm not AT&T. If somebody from AT&T is listening, I apologize. But that you make that phone call because you want to try to reconcile what's going on with the bill. You don't understand the bill, and the first thing you get is an automation. And then you had to press 1, and then now you get another automated voice, and then you had to press 2, and now you get another automated voice. Well, this is great. Well, I'm already 3 minutes in, and you still haven't talked to anybody. Well, unfortunately, I don't want to say it, but we're really kind of a disconnected society anymore. It's not one where you can communicate effectively with someone anymore. You have to go through the robotics of everything. And then once you go through the robotics, did you actually get the answer that you were looking for? And I guess even saying robotics, I mean, you could take your phones, for example, as robotics. I mean, are you truly doing what you need to do, or is your phone taking away from that? I'll be the first one to admit, hey, you're out to dinner or whatever. First thing you do anymore is pretty much check your phone when it buzzes, or, you hear it go off, you automatically look. Oh, who was that? What was that? What did I miss out on?
Yeah, what am I missing?
Yeah. Well, are we truly missing out? I don't. I mean, what would we have done before the whole technology of phones? Would I truly be missing out on something? I reflect back, and I mean, I didn't get a cell phone till I was 18 years old. And then again, it was also, you had to I had to type in Z, and it's like you had to hit the button 4 times in order to get the Z on for texting, and it's just one of those things where you look at it, and anymore we truly are maybe essentially a disconnected society where, are we we could use this as volunteering, right? Are we truly using our time wisely to give to others the way that we need to give? I mean, because we as human beings, it should be our nature to give. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing. You start giving, that's a huge deal. I don't know. I read a couple of these quotes. I want to read one here real quick. As we grow older, you discover that you have 2 hands, one for helping yourself and the other for helping others. That was from Audrey Hepburn. And then the second one that I really like is volunteers don't necessarily have the time, they have the heart. And that's from Elizabeth Andrew. And both of those are so true. I didn't realize till lately when I got myself involved with Athletic Boosters, like, hey, what the heck am I doing here? And then I step back, it's like, okay, hang on. Because it's not me, it's the people that I surround myself with that get it done. Mm-hmm. It's not me, and for example, it's not you, but it's those that we surround ourselves with that are able to get the job done when we want that job done.
And it takes man hours, right? It takes time, it takes effort. And in successful communities, you see that where people band together, there's a request that goes out and they're turning people away to help in those situations. Whether it be a fundraiser, whether it be a spirit event, any of those types of things. And I want to go back to that comment that you're talking about, the disconnected, because that connection, you see that connection in these successful communities where the culture is strong, and you don't necessarily see it as much when it's not very strong.
100%. Can't agree with you more.
And sometimes you hear, well, it's because of this, or it doesn't really matter anyway, or we're just always going to suck, or things of that nature. And it's like, nothing is ever that written in stone, right? I mean, that you and I have done since the moment we've met, that has been our mantra. Like, why does it have to be that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it doesn't. And yet we're also battling a handful of things. Like, you go to that small contact. So most of you, I've alluded to this in the past, but I am a psychologist, and so I do have an opportunity to talk individually with people in kind of their most sensitive times. And during COVID, that disconnection that was already happening in our society ended up happening even more, right? Where now lots of things are virtual and people are working from home. But one of the most important ones I heard were people complaining about, talking about missing out on small personal interactions that happen daily, which would be like getting your coffee from Reggie at Tim Hortons, right? And I don't know who Reggie is. He's a person I just made up. But this one gentleman talked about how he would go through Tim Hortons every day to get his coffee prior to COVID. And it didn't matter who was there. He knew that person because he goes every day. He knew Reggie, and he knew Miranda, who probably was covering for when Reggie wasn't there. And he could always engage them in conversation that lasted a whopping 30 seconds when he handed the card. Hey, how are the kids? They ask me a question. Hey, did I get my car fixed? How are things? How's school going, Reggie? And then they'd give me the coffee and our interaction would be over. That whole interaction, unless it's slow, is a 1 to 2 minute interaction, but is valuable to all of us because it validates us and says, I'm a human because a human talked to me, right? And when you start having humans talk to you, then you start really, well, do I matter? And that's where this comes from in regards to kids. Because if we're going to try, for the past 10 or 15 minutes, you're probably like, where are they going with this? Well, let's bring it back, right? Because when you're there present and giving time to kids, it shows them that they matter. So however many moments that I spend on a field is just the same as somebody might spend in the drama club or working with the play. And some of the teachers that are there, shout out to Miss Swarthout, who put in countless hours. I mean, she was my speech teacher, and she was there before me, and she's still there doing this. Special shout out to her, because the amount of time and effort she's put in is something that's impacted my sister and other people as well. And that's just one person, right? There's numerous others that we can give the shout out of those time and that extra effort that is valuable to kids that they then take with them, right? Because I'm here doing what I learned from watching other adults invest in me, right?
In one of those big things, right, is the youth. Like, we are so giving back to the youth because the youth, I mean, let's face it, the youth have it probably as hard ever now as what they have before. And Trevor, you and I have talked about this, and I don't know if we're going to make this any better on it, but
Here goes your social media.
I know.
Spiel.
I'm not a social media,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we can update to the second a score if somebody missed a field goal or somebody missed a game-winning basket, and the next thing you know, his peers or some adult over the age, I'm gonna consider an adult over the age of at least 21, is now bashing him on a social media site or Twitter or whatever. They're all social media, but whatever it may be, that wasn't there. That was never there before.
So that was brought up. That was brought up in topic, and it's something that I never noticed it until, is that it's very well known in journalism that you don't bash somebody in that situation. We would say the Carroll Tigers weren't able to pull it off at the end, and they lost by 3 points.
And that's it.
Boom.
Yep.
End of story. But now with social media, so-and-so missed the last second three-pointer, and they lost by 3. It's what's happening on social media.
Right.
And now that kid has that on his record, so to speak.
So having youth have it harder than ever I would say, because of social media, is really where we as adults need to step up and be that ear, be that voice, to help them, to let them talk to us, be that sounding board. Listen, I mean, there's a lot of times as an adult, like, I want to say something after a kid talks, and it's like, man, this isn't the right time. Mm-hmm. Just shut your mouth, because they're speaking and they want to be heard right now. We just got done coaching our travel baseball team for the last time, and a lot of what was said during our last, I guess I'll say, get together, right out there in left field was, I told the kids especially, like, if you ever need a phone call, if you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm not here to judge anybody, but if you need to be that voice, or you want me to be that sounding board while you're the voice, do it. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge any of those kids. You're kids. You're some now 13, 14. but I'm here to support you. Like, how can I support you? Like, that's what it's about. And, you know, here within the community of Carroll, how can we as adults and as community members support our local athletes, our local academics, just how do we support the youth as a whole? I know that you know, you kind of alluded to it. You know, why don't you get behind a sports team? Let's say it's this, you don't have a kid in the program, but it's a 7th grade basketball team, and you just saw little Timmy dribble the ball down, shoot it, make his first basket ever. You don't know that it was his first basket ever. He does, but then you watch little Timmy in 8th grade. Then you watch little Timmy in 9th grade, and then 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and you're like, wow, little Timmy became a heck of a ball player. And it's following those kids and seeing maybe what drives them. You know, you don't have to go out. You don't have to build a relationship with them. You could. And that relationship could be as simple as what Reggie and Miranda had, right? When you're going through the drive-thru and it's a 30-second chat. Hey, great job. You know,
Yep.
Excellent play. You know, a fist bump even. You know, that's the big thing nowadays. Just the fist bump. That's a big deal. It's a big deal for these kids. And to have that and to have them see that and feel that and hear that, because they may not have that at home either.
They may not. And, you know, that's a different topic for a different day. But, you know, I think that is the big question. Okay, we hear you, Chris. We hear you, Trevor. What are you getting at? Well, it's about what are you willing to do? Not what do you want to do. Like I say all the time, what you want to do means almost nothing because it's what you're willing to do. And there's so many different avenues. And it could just be, I'm going to go and watch most of the 7th and 8th grade basketball games because they need people to show up. And wouldn't it be cool to have a couple more people in the stands? Or maybe I get behind, you know, I do remember the time that Trevor's talking about when that was a great time when the gyms were full. I'm going to get back into Carroll basketball and follow these guys, right? And, you know, there's some good young players up there. There's more coming up. We know that because we've coached them. We've seen them. You know, I'm pretty excited. And it's going to be a good group to follow. All the ones that are there now, I mean, no skin off their back at all. But and we're jumping ahead to basketball season. It's still football and volleyball season and all that. But, you know, get behind these kids and just follow them through. And then you might always get to say, well, I watched them in sophomore year. Like I remember watching Adeline Moore play in freshman and sophomore year and saying, wow, she's going to be a special player. And then that came to fruition with, you know, all of her accolades, right?
Right.
So it might be just attending games. It might be, if you're a parent, the importance of that team parent role. Like just to have snacks in between a baseball game because you did that. Or
And if you don't think it matters, it does.
it does. I mean,
It wholeheartedly matters.
or some parent says, you know what, come over here. I'm going to have sandwiches in my garage, which is not just a garage. It's like a cool place to hang out before the game, this football game. And then you guys are going to go, you know, like team dinners and things. We're building
Right.
camaraderie, you know, helping organize spirit events to kind of, you know, like I remember there being things on my locker. I don't know why they were there, but it was still kind of cool that it was sparkly and someone spent time with it. Even though I stunk at basketball, it was still cool that it was there because I was on the team.
But guess what? Somebody took that time to make that for you.
Yeah.
And they donated their time. And that was something that we talked about. Like, I'm just a huge believer. Like, the biggest thing you can take from somebody, obviously, is time. You're never, ever going to get time back, no matter what. You know, I was blessed with 27 years with my mother, and I was blessed with 39 years with my father. Though a short amount of time, it was still time that I had with them, and I'll never, ever get that back. And it's the same way with our youth. That moment that you spend with them, listening or talking or whatever it may be, you will never, ever get that time back. Ever, no matter what.
And I think there's times where people might say, okay, you know, of course, that's what Chris and Trevor are going to say. And I don't really want this podcast to be about us. It is supposed to be about Carroll, but I'm just going to pull the veil back, guys. Like there was a point more than a handful of years ago, probably a handful of years ago, where we talked about we're going to change this. Right. We've this has been a conversation for you and I for a while. And the question has always been how, and we have our ways that we've worked on trying to change things. Hopefully most of it's been positive. Some people may disagree, and that's completely fine. And this is just another one of those. Like we want to put the information out there so people can cheer, people can root on. How did this go? And just have this community area where people can rah different things. And listen, if you go and it's going to be positive vibes only, right?
Yeah,
I mean, for
absolutely.
the most part, because if you're going to go put a negative thing on there, boom, you're out of the group.
Yeah, see you later.
It's going to be a cool club, so you don't want to be kicked out of it. Because there's so much on our kids' plates. I was going to throw this in earlier, but it fits here now. There is evidence to suggest that the human brain is only capable of handling the information that comes out of a village. A village's worth of information. And in our world, we have at our access an entire world's amount of information, which causes anxiety, it causes stress. There is, you brought up the wildfires in Maui, okay?
Yeah.
Do you have family that lives in Hawaii?
I do not.
And
not now.
I don't.
I did.
Okay,
but,
maybe you did.
Yeah.
I don't. In the grand scheme of things, Maui doesn't matter to me. It may not matter to you. And does it matter to my sons? Probably not. But do they have a weight of stress because it's been a disaster over there? Because it does matter to people, right?
Correct.
I'm not at all saying that it
Right.
doesn't. And yet, do they need the weight of that? When I was a kid, when you were a kid, would you have known that there was wildfires in Maui?
Nope.
No, because I'm not watching the national news with my dad, right? That was boring. I got other things to do. So that information, it just puts weight on all the shoulders, not to mention the social pressure that's happening from social media that you went into. And so, our purpose here is to rally the troops, right? Let's get as many people investing in this community as possible to move forward with these positive vibes, knowing that from that will come through, out of the tiger's den, so to speak, like great things. And it might not always be shown in wins and losses, all right? But it'll be shown in that community spirit, that culture, and anything that goes connected with that.
Yeah, and Trevor, I couldn't agree more. You talk about the community, and there's so many people here that want to see Caro succeed. So many people. And, I for one, back in 2020, I was one of those individuals that took my kids out of Caro, took them over to Kingston, and I gave them the choice if they wanted to come back. Their education is not my education. I asked them what they wanted to do, and they wanted to come back. If it was up to me, I probably would have kept them over there just because I'm a Kingston alum. And I know what was being done over there. But in the same token, it was one of those things like, how can I be the change here and not run away from anything? And I think that was big, and I think there was somebody that's probably across the counter that had mentioned something like that to me. So, yeah, I'm giving you credit. Here you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
So it's one of those things, I step back and I look at it, and it's like, how can I now be the change? What am I going to do? Okay, well, here I am, stepping up for the Athletic Boosters president. And I think I've already done, and I'm not saying I've done much more than that. I haven't, but my time as a PA announcer, my kids are getting older, but I'm going to find myself at these games more. I volunteered myself last year for the basketball PA announcer. I enjoy it. I do. And I'm not saying I don't. But it's one of those things, I'm volunteering where I can volunteer myself within the school itself. How can I be that helping hand to help these kids in any capacity possible?
And so the question comes out to you guys, right? I mean, we could sit here and talk about that, but what are you willing to do? All right. And I don't know what the answer is. That's your own question to answer. But if you want to be part of the change, if you want, it comes back to your time to this community is valuable. And how will you give it? Are you going to attend games and cheer? Are you going to go up and say it was fun watching you and it was a pleasure watching you? Do you own a business and want to donate? Because that's what you can do. You may not have time because running a small business might literally be running you rampant, right? But you do know that, hey, I do need a tax write-off. And people are out there chuckling like, oh, this is what it's about, it's getting money. No, that's sometimes all people can do.
Sometimes that is all they can do.
Right.
Yep,
and even though we could sit here and say time is more valuable than money, but we're going to take whatever people can get. And I don't mean like we're going to take it, like whether it be boosters, hopefully it's going to the right direction to support Caro athletics, Caro events, other things. Maybe you're going to donate it to Miss Worthout. Maybe you're going to donate it to a youth and government program. Whatever's important to you, please do that. Are you going to donate your time and work at a concession stand knowing that raises money for Caro athletics? Are you, because there's a lot of things that we could do with that. If you want to know what that is, just ask us, right? Because that's what we're working about right now.
I'll be the first one to go, hey, I'll challenge you to at least work one event. Mm-hmm. Simple enough. You don't have to work multiple, even if you must go on the speech. If you do work multiple events, you might as well work 3 of them so you can get a free punch card. But I do challenge you to at least one event. Because if each one person works one event, everything's covered for the entire year. Like everything's covered for the entire year. And that's just one person working one event. That's it.
And what people really get spicy about is when there is no concession stand.
Yeah.
Because there is nobody.
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Because they really want their popcorn. So maybe it's going to be volunteering and helping out with your kids' teams. Because as a parent, we know you want to watch.
Yep.
But hey, on that next Tuesday of that season, will you be the one that can bring snacks, right? Or are you going to work with the parents to, organize so all the parents wear the same clothes and embarrass their kids at a spirit event? Are you going to work with the students that are in the student section to have a spirit event and make sure that they have what they need, the pom-poms for cheerleader day or whatever, right? There's just so much that can be done, but it's about giving and finding those opportunities. And I know some people aren't very creative to find that, but just know who to ask, right? That's really what it is. Because it's, it takes the support, it takes time, it takes people. And what happens from all of that, whether you know it or not, is those kids look and see, just like I can remember all of those parents. I can remember parents working and building a concession stand that's out at Carroll Baseball Softball Federation. Like, I know who built that because I remember them being on the roof because I was hanging around playing in the dirt probably around that, with my dad and all these other individuals. Like, that building was built by volunteers.
Right.
And that's how that's how things get built, is with time and volunteers. So, anything else?
I got nothing, man. I just wish that those that are listening, I'm not saying you have to volunteer. This isn't it at all. But just maybe take a step back and think about what you're currently doing and think if there's anything that you could do better. I try to, one thing that I've been doing lately, that probably my wife doesn't even know about, is I try to go hour by hour, like even when I'm at work, hour by hour. I'm done doing the day by day stuff because, well, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, the old cliche. So I'm trying to just step back and go an hour at work. How did this hour go? Okay, man, that was a rough hour. How's the next hour going to go? That's where I'm at, but I also never forget it. A great example. Hey, why am I working? What am I working? Most might say, hey, you're working to pay the bills, you idiot. Well, yeah, I'm actually working so that way I can support my family. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working so I can support my kids and give my kids the best possible living that they can have. Not that, hey, I'm handing out money to them by any means, but it's the best possible living that they can potentially have. That's why I work. And it's kind of the same thing with volunteering, right? What can you do to give somebody in the community, a youth in the community, the best possible opportunity? You can always make opportunity out of something. Always you can make opportunity out of something. Even if you fail, there's opportunity in that, and always know that there's opportunity.
You want to know why I started?
Why'd you start?
Because someone told me I can't complain unless I'm willing to be part of the change.
Yes.
And so, as someone who probably at one point liked to complain about things, I did learn a very important lesson when I was young: is you don't get to complain about something that you don't have a part in.
There you go.
For a fact, that's how I got started in some things, and I've learned a ton along the way that Trevor didn't know what he was talking about. Right. Yeah. Once you have the inside scoop on what's happening, and I think that's what hopefully some of our interviews will do, right? Is to
hopefully it opens the eyes of some
perspectives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's multiple perspectives on here. Like lots of people have. Let's pick something we know pretty well recently is middle school sports. Like, do you understand what it takes to be a middle school sports coach? Holy cow. Holy cow. Like, that perspective, like, there's a lot of opinions that happen, but I don't think parents tend to look at it through that tunnel vision of their kid, right? But think about what has to happen there and what could or should happen, and that perspective of what that coach is dealing with. And don't even think about playing time. Just think about the yahoos that are 7th and 8th graders and what that is like dealing with. Anyway, I love them to death, but man, it's
tough and rough. I told the coach last year, I said, I don't care if you win or you lose. Your sole purpose is to make sure that you have kids come out for the following year. Mm-hmm. That's your sole job.
Yep.
That's it. I don't care about wins and losses. Your job is to make sure they want to come back next year.
You
That's
mean
it.
my son's not getting a college scholarship over his
performance
in 7th grade basketball?
No. Sorry to burst that bubble.
Yeah, I got to put this down. I hit the table loud so you guys heard that. Dreams, goals. I sent you that picture.
You did. That was huge.
It was a giant sports building. And what did it say? I don't even remember the name of the school. But
I don't remember the name either.
But it was in Ohio.
Yep.
And what did it say on the sign?
Usually I don't try to remember things that come out of Ohio, but it was in funding and collaboration with the Boosters program I believe is what it was.
Like a 20 to 30,000 square foot building that
Oh,
we
it's
weren't
huge.
in.
It was
but
huge.
You guarantee it had turf.
Yep.
I bet you it had drop down batting cages.
Yep.
I bet you it had a running track in it or something else. A lot of like, I will give shout out to Legacy Center in Pigeon. That's a pretty cool place.
It is a pretty cool place. Yeah.
But like this is why are we going to wait for government money or other people to make a building for our kids for sports or for other events when maybe there's a way to get it done in a different way, right? And so
if there's a will, there's a way.
yeah. So anyway, thanks for listening. This has been episode 3. I think it went a little bit longer than we wanted. Some of you may have tuned out, and for that, you're not listening anyway because this is the end. And if you're still on, thank you for listening. We have more episodes coming. By the time you listen to this, fall sports should have gotten started.
Yep.
And so we'll be able to give you, I might jump on here and give you a results section. Chris and I'll try to get on and do this as my podcast partner, getting back to that alliteration. But you can also follow us on Facebook, let's get it all here, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and YouTube at the tagline @Caro Tigers Den. All right. And if you go to @Caro Tigers Den on any of those places, you're going to be able to see updates on scores, shout outs to athletes or special performances, and maybe not only athletes, right? That's
Correct.
kind of our goal.
Yep.
Because, I mean, just because we're sports guys doesn't mean we don't, like, there's academic games that could be talked about, right? That are a little bit later in the year, marching band, different things of that nature. So anything that we can shout out kids for doing awesome things so they can tag it. You and I know how important it is when a kid gets to share a tweet that has their name.
It's very, very important.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a big deal to them.
It is.
And I'd love for every kid to be able to have that opportunity. So find us there. And check out and I guess listen for future episodes of the Prowl podcast. So thanks for tuning in.